Okay, everybody, good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the session this morning. I'm unable to see who's all out there at the current moment, but whoever's out there, thanks for joining. And we have something exciting to talk about this morning. It's a product from ANI Solutions called ScoutITAi. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it and show you some of the things that it does that are pretty exciting things, especially if you are a Broadcom NetOps client, maybe you're a Broadcom AppNeta client. These are things that are powerful tools in the industry, right? And what ANI Solutions has done is we've created a little bit of an overlay to provide you with maybe a business context that you don't always have to complex network scenario type situations. So I'm excited to show you that today. Going to give you a couple of little slides just so you know who we are and everything. And then after that, I'm going to go into a live demo. So the demo, will not be staged or anything. So it'll be live in production, and you'll get a chance to see what the product does. And we'd love to hear from you, even email or feedback, what you think about it. So let me, I'm going to pull up this presentation, and apologize for my voice. There's pollen or whatever in the air just tears me up, and it makes it hard to sort of talk. But let me share my screen here for you. Okay. All right, so I'm going to come over here and start a little slideshow. Like I said, it's only like, I think, 3 slides, but it's just really to tell you a little bit about us. So today's presentation is ANI, that's our company, presents ScoutITAi Cloud Network Observability, or even if you wanted to say cloud observability in general as a service. But today, certainly, we're focused on that NetOps piece, that complex network scenario, and how we can give you that observability, something Broadcom already does, but how we can do it as a service and maybe with some business context. So that's what today's presentation is about. We did want to show you a little bit about us. We're a premier or a partner, or sort of a platinum partner for Broadcom. So we have a lot of certifications that we've worked hard over the years to achieve, as far as being experts in not only product knowledge, like what the products are for Broadcom, but also in implementation. So our company does services, post-sale implementation of the products that you purchase from Broadcom. So we actually have on the NetOps side of the house, we have this sounds crazy, but I guess it shows how old we are. We have a combined 200 years of implementation and leadership experience in the NetOps products. So that's several of us, right? But I guess that means we're all old. But anyways, we have a lot of years of experience with NetOps, even from the early days, back when it was sort of more focused just on the Spectrum suite. But so we go back pretty far. So we'd love to help you in anything that you're doing with Broadcom with some expert post-sale services. So that's what we do. And you can see our little history there. We're based out of Atlanta. We've been around for 25 years now. And as you can see, all the focus areas. Basically, if it's Broadcom, we like to support it. We like to implement it and help you design even advanced solutions using the Broadcom suites. Okay, so this is, as a put up there, AI-driven cloud observability for enhanced reliability. It sounds like a lot of words, right? And certainly a lot that we hear every day, such as observability. But things have really changed. So this will be the only real pitch I give you. Things have really changed. I've been, I apologize, I didn't introduce myself. I've been in IT operations now for about 35 years. And in my 35 years, your experience may be different, but in my 35 years, we have really chased, from an IT operations standpoint, we have really chased what I call reliability. So how do we make our systems not just like survive triage today? Like we're fighting fires every day, it feels like, when you're in IT operations or IT support of any kind, a NOC or a command center. You're always fighting fires. And that's sort of what we're here to do from an operational or production standpoint. We don't want production to go down, right? But there's more to it when you talk about reliability. So observability is great because it gets us everything we need from a data standpoint to see what's going on, okay? But reliability is a little bit different, or maybe you might say it's a lot different, because reliability means that we took what we observed, we took all this great, rich data that we observed, and we made things better for the future. That's reliability. So what we're trying to do in partnership with Broadcom is is work on that piece. With Broadcom, you're going to have observability. You're going to get some great data. And with ScoutITAi layered over the top, we will try to give you what I call and have called for many years reliability. So more predictive insights, more how do you take what you know right now and not only predict that we're going to make improvements in the future, how do you measure that you made those improvements? So that's what I'd like to show you today is how to take these challenges that folks like me, if you're like me and you've been in IT operations, or in the field for a long time, you may feel like you've been doing the same, like putting out fires every day, doing your best to make things better, but sometimes on a domain scale. And our solution that we're going to show you today is made more for the enterprise and more how do we make things better, measured and better for the long term. So as you can see in our little box there, why Scout it, it's really those things that are the drivers. So if you're wondering what is the business use case for this, we're going to show you GenAI, okay? But it's really a little bit different, right? It's not just it's not just throwing stuff to like GPT or anything and getting a sort of a sessionless response or something like that. We want to show you what we built from a sessions perspective, okay, using Sonnet 3.5 actually. We want to show you what we built from a GenAI session perspective. And believe it or not, actually, our agent that we built is actually programmed to understand this specific topic, reliability for IT operations. So I just refer to her as a her, right? So, but it's just the way I talk. So when we taught her how to understand that IT operations isn't just about triage, and it isn't just about the data we collect. It's about putting together a formula that will give us a score for reliability for any service, for any network service or any cloud service. So we're going to show you that that's what we give you is that single score, right? For any given service of reliability. And I'll explain that in a moment. And then the other thing is our GenAI looks at that score and calculates using several good statistical models. It calculates how you can make improvements to each of those, what I call buckets of deductions that are hitting your services every day. So that's sort of what we're going to talk about here. So this is just sort of a little graphic here that sort of shows. I started working on this formula back, believe it or not, almost 16 years ago now. Oh my God. And it started off, believe it or not, when I was in IT operations for a large Fortune 100. I was doing my master's during that time. And I thought that there must be a way to quantify the different ways that any service, right, like an e-commerce service or network service, whatever you pick, there must be a way to quantify the deductions that detract from the customer experience for each of those services by buckets. So if you can see my screen there, hopefully you can, and we'll get you, if you want this deck, we'll get it to you. But if you start at sort of midnight, you can see the different, there's 13 buckets that I sort of, broke out. And the 13 buckets are things that over my time in IT operations, I felt that everything fell into those 13 buckets. So every deduction, maybe I should use a different word, every defect in performance that I saw from monitoring tools could fit into one of these buckets. And therefore, one of these buckets can produce an index score, a derivative. And that bucket will have a score that will then take away from a 100% reliability rating. So the more those buckets get filled, the lower my score for reliability gets, because each of those buckets can take me down. And so I want to know, how am I doing at any time with this? So that's basically what we're showing you today. And so I'm gonna back out of that. And I'm going to pull up. Now, I apologize that I don't, I'll look at questions here in a little bit on my interface here so I can see if anybody's asking anything. But what I wanted to show you was the actual product itself. And like I told you just a few minutes ago, this isn't staged. This isn't in QA. This isn't a product demo. This is all production. As a matter of fact, I have a good friend who's one of my customers, is I believe in the audience today. His name is Dan Elswick, and he works for Coty Cosmetics, one of the world's largest cosmetics producers. And he actually is a customer of this product. And He's been, I've known him for a long time. He's been a long time customer of Broadcom and uses tons of their products. And so Dan was kind enough to sort of look at this, and I think he saw some value. So if you happen to know Dan or want to have a chance to reach out to Dan instead of listen to me, right? If you want to talk to a customer who's using this and just sort of get his unfiltered thoughts on it, please reach out to him, Dan Elswick with Cody. And I know the Broadcom team can hook you up for that. But anyways, this is the interface. Now, one thing I want to mention is we made it ultra simple. So we wanted to do that by design, right? Because if you're using Broadcom products, you already have what I would call best of breed in the ability to drill into technical details, right? So back in the day, you know, when I was younger, way younger, and I was using a lot of the tools on a daily basis for IT operational insights, I knew and felt comfortable with the products I use, for instance, Spectrum, to be able to go really deep into any issue, right? So we're not here to replace the already great products that Broadcom provides. What we like to do is take the great product that you already have and put the layer that you're seeing above it so that you're able to get some insights that are just harder to get these days unless you have this type of overlay. So we bring you basically to one of two screens. All right. So for the purpose of what I'm doing today, I brought you to my, I guess you call it production account for ScoutITAi. And so I'm under what's called a universal menu, because this is sort of where I look at what we call our universal business apps. So like all these apps down here on the left, these are 10 business apps that if you're, let's pretend you're like an IT operations manager, you probably are supporting at least some of these apps, right, for your team or for your company. Like you might have SharePoint for marketing to share stuff, and your whole company may use Zoom, right? Or your whole company may use Dropbox for storing files, where whoever is using those services is probably calling you going, hey man, why is Dropbox slow today? I can't get my files pulled down, or Zoom sucks today. You know, all that kind of stuff we hear as leaders, right? We hear that all the time. Well, we thought it would be good to have an observability or universal that everybody can see, and that's what I'm looking at now, that has maybe the top 10 business apps that we've run into. So what we're doing is we're using a product that I'm sure you're aware of from Broadcom called AppNeta, okay? And so what we did is we loaded, AppNeta makes it very easy to deploy their virtual agents into the cloud. And so we built that functionality, just the pass-through. We built that pass-through functionality into ScoutIT so that a customer could look at this and say, well, I want to set up a couple of monitoring points in the cloud and just sort of, you know, peruse some of my business applications. So what we did is we did that automatically, so you don't have to worry with that. So you see we have 2 AWS virtual agents from AppNeta deployed, okay, right here, east and west. Now, those 2 monitoring points from AppNeta are actually monitoring, and you may be familiar with this, but they're actually monitoring those 10 business apps. So what we're doing is we're using AppNeta, as you would, to monitor either, you know, active or passive, however you like to use AppNeta, but we're using active monitoring on these 10 business apps. But what we do a little bit extra that we're hoping you're interested in is once we get data from AppNeta about those 10 apps, we pipe it into what I call a reliability algorithm. Now, this is a patented algorithm that we have at ANI Solutions that allows us to use something that was started, like I said, was being developed in my master's class. So that's a long time ago. And then it was sort of refined over the years. And then we started testing it with different companies and different industries. So that algorithm, I like to consider that as a pretty bulletproof way to understand the reliability of any service. So now we're looking at 10 services. And if you look on the right, you're looking at 10 scores. Now, those scores represent from those 2 AWS monitoring points. Those scores have been produced as an index score for each of those applications. So that's one thing, right? So now you're going to have something that's more of a one-to-one so that you can compare. I like to call it a relative indicator, because the relationship between SAP right now and Salesforce, as you can see, the relationship is 9 points apart, almost perfectly 9 points apart, actually. So what is it about Salesforce right now that's making it less reliable overall? In the past hour, for instance, what's making it less reliable than the customers who are using SAP? And of course, you can see the score there, 90.55% is the calculated score of reliability. And then if I go over the top of this, you can see that the problems right now that we're experiencing are deductions related to, looks like, latency and some system log chatter. Now, if you're wondering what syslog chatter is, I think you may know because I just said syslog. But yes, we do harvest from a lot of different data sources. We prefer to harvest from Broadcom tools because of the way that they're built. It's very easy for us to bring that in and do the calculation. But to be fair, any product that you have, we can probably harvest from that, even in a simple webhook type fashion, if you wish. We can harvest from that and fill one of these 13 buckets. So you can see the 13 buckets there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on RPI score, and that'll cancel RPI score out, so the total score. And now you can just look at the actual deductions that are hitting each application and causing it to be less reliable over any given period. So this is the index that we want to promote. So when Broadcom asked us to present this, we were thrilled because we do like the idea of having a relative indicator that lets you compare disparate monitoring data or disparate applications and put them on an equal level and say, okay, which one's like more reliable right now? And relative indicators are important in my history. When I think back over the years, we've used all forms of relative indicators. I can think of a place where I worked where we used like a moving average indicator where we were looking at a 10-day or a 30-day moving average, and we were graphing that out with a line to see if today was a good day or a bad day. It may sound a little silly, but it actually helped us a lot back in that situation. So that's really what we're doing here. And as a matter of fact, we want the product to sort of be centered around this, since it's something that's really not available out there from a patent point of view. We're the only ones who have it. But the sort of the sizzle to the steak here I want to show you is this little twirly AI button. And if you're like me, I mean, I don't know how you feel about AI in general, right? Like everybody's different on that. Certainly it's fun. I mean, just the concept that you can go out like to a chat GPT or something and have it do some work for you. That's a cool idea. But what we wanted to do, like I said before, was create something that had more to do with IT operations as opposed to write my term paper, right? This is more to do with what we do every day as NetOps professionals, as ITO professionals. This is really what we do. So you'll see that the agent interface here, there's not much to it. We wanted, again, to keep it simple. And so you can see here, I wanted to show you because it takes a little bit of time, and let me explain why here in a minute. But I wanted to just type in a few questions so you could see some answers while we talk. But one thing that we're doing, and I wanted to clarify on the GenAI side of the piece, especially if you're already using GenAI, let me be clear on what we're using. At ANI Solutions, we partnered with Amazon, right? And we used their Bedrock platform to create our own agent that is based on the foundational model from Claude. If you go up to Anthropic, right? So Claude. And then under the Claude subset, we decided to use Sonnet. We started with 3.0, but we have now moved to 3.5. So if you're big into Gen AI in general, then you'll know that probably the main reason we decided to go with Sonnet 3.5 is that it has a lot of current capability for statistical analysis, and it also has a lot of promise in the future. Like, for instance, they have something called computer use. And if you've read on that, it's sort of spooky, to be honest with you. But computer use AI would be, instead of me just asking it to talk to me about performance and so forth, about current performance, what if I said, wow, I'd really like to make some changes, ScoutIT. Is there any chance you can show me how I could do some changes? Well, at that point, computer use Gen AI would then take over my laptop, and it would start doing the work in front of me, asking me, hey, is this okay? Can I do this? And again, I know that's sort of spooky, but once you play with it, you can see the benefits for IT operations, right? How many years have folks like us, think about this, how many years have folks like us been sitting in our offices saying, yeah, I'm going to start, doing some automation so that my systems can self-heal? Okay, well, I've certainly tried that many times, and you probably have too. Where I have had some failures in the past is sometimes self-healing can do more harm than good if it's not programmed exactly correct. So I do understand that there's a little bit of hesitation out there, but the concept that we could do self-healing using Gen AI is no longer like fantasy. I mean, we really can do it. It's just a matter of understanding it and how it applies to us. So anyways, I wanted to tell you that because when we use our Gen AI, we're actually, unlike ChatGPT, where you're doing a sessionless, where it just sort of feeds from the internet things it finds and sort of lists it out and gives you advice. In our case, we've trained it to look over, well, what you're looking at right now, it's looking over 150 million rows of data, performance data, from different sources. Okay, think about that, 150 million rows. And it looks at that from different sources of monitoring tools, and it comes up with those scores. And then from those scores, this AI agent is making a determination over the past year's worth of data what the best answer is. So it does take it at right now, we're up in the minute range for it to do like a complex analysis and give us the answer. But most of the things that we ask it to do, I used to have to do myself as an analyst, right? And it would take me sometimes days to go through that kind of, data set and come up with something that was reliable as far as analysis. So anyways, as you see here, what are my applications doing today in their deduction buckets? Remember the 13 buckets versus their 10-day moving average. Why would that be important? Well, depending on where you've cut your teeth in IT operations, in general, a 10-day moving average of any statistic is a good indicator of current performance versus like date to day versus what's normal. So if I can look at the 10-day moving average for pick something, data loss, if I can see my 10-day moving average for data loss, and I can see that today, within the past, let's say 4 or 5 hours, I'm having less data loss than what the 10-day moving average is. Well, from an IT operations point of view, I can at least sit down with my coffee in the morning as I come into the office and think I've got a little time to breathe, because now my day's starting off pretty good. I've got a pretty good attitude for the day. And it goes that way with anything. If you measure against a 10-day, it's valuable metrics. So look at what the GenAI ScoutITai did. It went off, again, this is no joke. It looked at over 150 million rows of performance data. And then from that, it looked at the 10-day moving average for every one of the buckets that we have data for right now for this application. And so it looked at each of the buckets, and it showed that, where they are versus their 10-day. This one caught my eye right there. So when it got to what we call transit average latency, which is a bucket that is filled with different forms of latency data, not like just one, it's filled with different forms to create an index. It looked at Salesforce and saw that the average transit latency is 10.97 points of deduction. However, today it's 22 points of deduction. So in other words, that makes me think, what the heck's going on? Why is latency so bad for just Salesforce? So anyways, it's a good insight, right? And so she went through and gave me other stuff too. But that led me to ask, well, hey, wait a second. Well, what would my score be? Like, what would my RPI score? What would my reliability score be for Salesforce if I had my team concentrate on improving latency for the next 30 days? Well, look what happens. Tells me, well, you're already got a good score overall, 99.72%. But if you do focus for 30 days on improving latency, you will probably get up to 99.92. All right. So that is actually important, right? So think about how many times maybe your executive or your CIO has said, what is your team doing to make us better long term? Well, now you have math to say, well, we think that we can make a difference in the next 30 days that would increase us all the way up to 99.92% perfection, all the way up there. Well, that's going to impress your CTO or your CIO that you have that kind of command of the facts. So anyways, I know we're out of time here, but I just wanted to, I wanted you to see that what we're trying to do in partnership with Broadcom is put in something that when you come in with Broadcom's NetOps suite. All right, so let's say you jump in with NetOps and you've got the entire NetOps suite there. We're able to then partner with you and with Broadcom and actually pull in, as you see here, not just the things related to AppNeta, okay? But we could pull in things related to your NetOps from Spectrum or from PM, for instance, and we can fill these 13 buckets for you. And when we get these 13 buckets filled, you will get a reliability score that is extremely accurate. So you not only will have the best in breed in your monitoring platform, you will now have what I'd like to call the best of breed of analysis of that NetOps platform. So anyways, we think it's exciting. We think it's the right way to use GenAI because, to be honest with you, I don't know if you read Gartner or Forrester or any of those analyst firms, but the number one thing that I keep reading over the past year is that most CTOs and CIOs are getting a little disillusioned with GenAI for IT operations because the promise of what GenAI would do for IT operations hasn't really been delivered yet. The ROI isn't there. And for ScoutITAi, we think we've bridged that gap. We think we give you a chance at a good ROI using GenAI. Who doesn't want to tell their CIO that they're using GenAI responsibly? But we think we can give you those two things, a reliability score and GenAI, responsible GenAI, at a very low cost as an overlay to Broadcom tools. So we're excited. We hope that you enjoyed this this little, let me look at see if I can see here if there's anything out there as far as questions here. Oh, there's Dan. Nice. Thank you, Dan. Good to hear from you. We hope to hear from you. We think, like I said, we have something very interesting and exciting for you in the future. On the Broadcom team, there's Alec Pinkham, who's with us today, is a great person to talk to, knows this stuff backwards and forwards. And then, of course, many of you know Jeremy, of course, Jeremy Rossback, who's the chief evangelist for Broadcom in the space. And I guarantee you, if you talk to them, you're going to get what you need from a NetOps perspective. And if you are interested in just trying this out, we do have the ability for you to just try it out if you want to. And Alec and Jeremy can help set us up to do that. So, Alec, I'm not sure if I'm going to stop talking. I'll come off video here. And Alec, I don't know if you have anything to say before we shut down.
Nope, that's it. Thank you so much for taking the reins and starting us up here, and appreciate your partnership with this. So I think at this point we'll close the session, and if there are any follow-up questions, we'll make sure to connect to Tony and the A&I team.
Awesome. Thanks again, Alec, for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Very fun demo to see.
Okay, take care now.
All right, take care,
Bye-bye.
all.